Members will answer the roll call. A quorum is present. Senator Ruff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Senate Bill 183, and the bill before you is in order to strengthen the cemetery board's ability to protect the public in situations in which a cemetery company's license is revoked. This bill is to ensure that the maintenance is continued. This clarifies how the board will seek receivership that will assume that maintenance. The entity that is appointed by the receiver will maintain and be paid by a reasonable fee set by the court from the assets of the cemetery company. If there are any, it's that simple. If there are any questions,
right.
Mike Daugherty with the Cemetery Association.
All right, thank you, Senator Rupp. Does any of the members have a question for the patron?
Mr. Chairman?
Delegate Wright.
I'll move to report.
Second. All right, we have a motion. All right, we have a motion second. All right, members will cast their vote on the electronic voting machine.
We beat it by 20 seconds.
All right, close the roll. The bill reports out 8-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Wow, that was pretty fast. Next up is Senator Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to try to be just as succinct and hopefully as successful as Senator Rupp.
Yes,
I've got Senate Bill 533, Mr. Chairman, and this was brought to me actually at the request of the realtors. And this bill has to do with escrows for real estate transactions. And specifically, right now, there's, because of the existing regs, sometimes realtors are caught up for escrow violations when they, in fact, no longer hold the escrow funds. And so what this is doing is saying that if a broker receives an escrow check, he's got 5 business days after the contract is ratified to deposit in his escrow account. If the contract says it needs to be deposited in somebody else's account, i.e. the settlement agent, closing attorney, then the broker must deliver the funds to the escrow agent by the end of the fifth business day from the receipt of the funds. That's it, Mr. Chairman. And there was no opposition, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Lewis. Does any of the members have a question for the patron?
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion.
Delegate Wright.
I'll move to report.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. The members will cast their vote on the electronic voting machine. Close the roll. The bill reports out 8-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, let's see. Next up, I'm trying to remember who came in when, but anyway. You know what? Senator McPike. He was out there for a long time outside. I know that much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. I know it's been a long day. Senate Bill 607, that's before the committee. And what it does, it sets out to have the Board of Asbestos and Lead and Home Inspectors update the regulations to include basically making sure a home upon inspection has a smoke detector that is in good working order. And of course, we're allowing the board to determine what that good working order is. Essentially, go hit the button. Right now, under current standards, it just says presence of one. Right now, under the current regs, for instance, you already have to go in and check for the safety mechanisms of the garage door operator. You have to do other things with it, but for the smoke detector, you don't. NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association, just last year had a report indicating that 3 out of all 5 fatal house fires, they did not have working home smoke detectors. So this is one measure. We have an inflection point where we can go with the home inspector, utilize them as an asset to help ensure that they're not only present, but they actually work.
All right, thank you. Is any of the members
Mr. Chair,
questions?
a question.
Delegate Runyon.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to make sure that this does not require all transactions to have a home inspection, just those that do have a home inspection, you would have an inspection of the smoke detector. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, that'd be correct.
Any members have any questions? I didn't really ask. Is anybody in the audience to speak to the bill? Oh, here we go.
Right. Mr. Chairman, Andrew Clark with the Home Builders Association of Virginia, and we support the bill. It's a requirement for landlords to test their smoke detectors every year, and we think it's a good requirement if home buyers are choosing to get a home inspection for them to also have it tested. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Aaron Rice on behalf of the Virginia Professional Firefighters. We support the legislation. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Rob Bohannon here representing the Virginia Association of Real Estate Inspectors. Just one comment that there is some challenge. It's not as easy sometimes as just pressing a button. You actually, to make sure a smoke detector works, you really need the presence of smoke. So, home inspectors do often talk about in the inspection reports, letting folks know about replacing them and everything, but want to just make sure it's not as, that's really the best way to actually test if a smoke detector works.
Thank you. All right, the final word there, Senator.
No, thank you for the committee's time, and I think to Mr. Bohannon's point, good working order would be defined by the board in terms of what that standard is. I don't think it's a good thing for us to dictate in the legislation what that should be. That's why we have boards to help us guide those.
Thank you. All right.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to report and seconded. The members will cast their vote on the electronic voting machine. Close the roll. The bill reports 8-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, let's see. Senator McClellan, I think we can knock out a whole lot of our docket here.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. I have 3 bills. I'm not sure which one you want first.
I guess we can start at the beginning, 480.
All right, 480 is a code commission bill that clarifies under the Administrative Process Act that signed originals of final agency case decisions that have to be maintained can be maintained in electronic format. That's the bill.
Any of the members have a question for the patron?
Mr. Chairman, I move to report.
All right. And, all right, we've got a motion and a second. The members will cast their vote on the electronic voting machine. Bill reports 8-0, Senator. So what we got next is 491.
491 you've seen before. It is the Senate version of House Bill 952 that establishes the Virginia African Diaspora Advisory Board. It's identical to the bill that you sent to appropriations.
Mr. Chairman, I move to report.
Mr. Chairman,
Delegate Wright.
I believe the motion should be to report and refer.
That's correct. Motion to report.
So I'll make that motion to report and
Do we
refer.
have a second? Oh, we have a second. All right, the members will cast their vote on the electronic voting machine. All right, that bill reports 8-0.
All right.
Senator McClellan.
This one probably won't be as fast. So Senate Bill 494 makes 3 changes to the anti-discrimination provisions of in employment in the Human Rights Act. The first makes consistent the definition of employer. Right now, an employer is defined as 5 or more employees if you fire someone. I'm sorry, if you don't fire someone, but, wait a minute, I'm sorry, it's been a long day. Let me go back to the beginning. It is defined as between 5 and 15 employees if you don't fire someone. If you do fire someone, it's 5 or more. So this makes it consistent that it's 5 or more regardless of the claim, whether they're fired, whether they're demoted, whether they're presented with a hostile work environment but not fired, it would be the same definition. So that's the first part of the bill. The second part of the bill, right now, there is no express statute of limitations in the Human Rights Act. And so we put a 2-year statute of limitations. This is consistent with what the statute of limitations is for personal injury, housing discrimination, and tort claims. And then the third part of the bill makes it clear that it is that attorney fees and costs shall be awarded to a prevailing plaintiff. Under federal law, the federal statute is written exactly like the current statute, and federal courts have interpreted that to require attorney fees. So this just makes this attorney fee provision consistent with federal law. And that's the bill.
Thank you. Thank you, Senators. Any of the members have a question for the patron?
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion.
Delegate Wright.
I move to report and refer to appropriations.
Mr. Chairman, I have
Delegate Runyon.
Move to pass by.
Okay, we have a motion before us to pass by, which takes precedence. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Pardon me, Senator. Is there still time to go to appropriations? I mean, we just voted on all ours.
yes.
We have a speaker letter that has to go.
Yeah, we have
Oh.
from the
Commerce and
speaker.
Energy.
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I was clear.
Yep. Delegate Runyon, can you
Did you want
withdraw
So this-
that motion?
happy to do
Yeah, yep.
Parliamentary inquiry,
Yes,
staff might be
Delegate.
able to answer. So I believe there's a motion right now to, the last motion was to pass.
just withdrew it.
He withdrew the motion.
All right, so the motion before us now is to report and refer.
And just for clarification, Mr. Chairman, you said there was a letter from
Yes.
the speaker. Okay. All right. So
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Refer to Commerce and Energy.
Oh, report and refer to Commerce and Energy. Yep.
Somewhere.
That's what the note is, yes. Commerce and Energy.
All right, let me restate the motion. I'll make a motion to report and refer to Commerce and Energy.
Thank you. All right, well, now that we got all that straightened out,
Hang on.
I'll go wherever you want me to go.
there you go. All right, the members will cast their vote on the electronic voting machine.
I think we were all confused.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator McClellan. All right, let's see. Senator Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two. You have any choice between 575 and 199?
Well, let's start with 199.
Yes, sir.
And I believe we have an amendment.
Okey-doke.
Yes, Mr. Chair. On line 20, after notice, insert, the rental agreement shall provide the occupant with the option to designate an alternative contact to receive the notices required by this section. Failure or refusal of an occupant to designate an alternative contact shall not affect the rights or remedies afforded to an occupant or owner pursuant to the provisions of this section or any other provision of law. No alternative contact shall have any right to access the leased space or any personal property stored within unless expressly stated otherwise in the rental agreement.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion on the amendment?
So moved.
Do we have a second on the motion to adopt the amendment?
Second.
All right, thank you. The amendment's before us. All those in favor of the amendment say aye. All opposed?
2-0, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Mason, you want to explain
Thank
the
you, Mr.
bill and
Chairman.
the amendment?
That's a really good amendment because this bill is designed to, when you've reached a point that you've reached out and contact the person that has rented your storage facility and said, hey, please either pay your bill or come get the contents of the facility. And you've tried, you've emailed them, you've called them, you've noticed them, you've sent them letters, and they're just not going to do it. So this bill is not about notice. All of that work has been done. This bill is about how you dispose of the contents. And the bill just allows you to do it rather than having to publicly state it in a newspaper. You can do that. I'm from Farmville, Virginia. It'd make a lot of sense to make sure it goes in the Farmville Herald. but they also sell most of these online. And that gives you the opportunity to take pictures of contents and then auction them off online. It really isn't noticed in the newspaper. Some say Monty Mason Storage Facility E60. Some of them just say the contents of E60, F34, and Z122. So the newspaper element today is not designed for notice. It's just designed to sell it. Now that you've added another provision to give you the backup on the contract that if you can't get in touch with me, because the owners of these facilities want you to come get your stuff out of the storage facility. If you do not, this is just about disposing of the contents.
Thank you. Are there any folks in the audience wish to speak to the bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. David Halleck on behalf of the Virginia Self-Storage Association. We appreciate Senator Mason carrying the bill. And as he said, this has nothing to do, you'll hear from the Press Association and others that this is about constructive notice to the public. But it really isn't. We've done thousands and thousands of these sales, and we've never had a single individual come up and say, stop the sale. I got notice in the newspaper that my stuff's being auctioned. It just doesn't happen. That is an advertising requirement that was put in back in the 70s when it made sense to have an advertising requirement to do this. Now, as Senator Mason said, these auctions occur online, and it makes much more sense to publicize them and provide the notice online. And I would say, Mr. Chairman, we're not breaking new ground here. Almost 30 other states either have no requirement at all, no government mandate for an advertising requirement, or they allow options, newspaper, online, whatever, just as this bill would do. And that includes all of our border states, Maryland, North Carolina, West Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky. All of them do not have a government mandate for an advertising requirement. So we would ask that you support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other folks who might speak in opposition? Here we go.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Amy Perrin-Seibert, and I'm here today on behalf of the Virginia Press Association. Some of you have heard me speak on this bill before. We are opposed to this bill. I think we do actually have a fundamental disagreement about what the purpose of this notice is. This is a lien on someone's personal private property. It's a public legal notice that it gets to be noticed. It is definitely the third step. Someone gets a letter, a certified letter, and then the public notice goes in the paper. It has been in the law since about the 1980s, and so we do think it's important. We think it's an important step because also when they talk about being able to put this online, we don't disagree. They can do that right now. There's no reason to be able to change the law. They can put it in the newspaper and advertise their auction online as they do right now. There's nothing in the law that prevents them from doing that. But we also have to think about our smaller communities that don't have only internet, because what this would do is say that public notice would only be available on the internet and not in a local paper. And there are a lot of places in Virginia that still don't have internet access and have that availability. Small papers are still important to part of this community. We also think it's important, like I said, that this issue is it's a legal public notice. Our requirements for the paper, we have to keep a piece of paper that tracks it. It's an affidavit. It proves that it was run. We actually provide it to the storage units if they ever need it. If someone says, hey, you didn't advertise my stuff being sold, we can show that to them, and that would go away as well with this bill. So we do think this is important. And this would be the first time that we take public notice for a lien and someone's personal property out of the paper and not have that requirement anymore. That is a requirement that we have throughout the code, and we urge you today to keep that requirement. So we hope you will. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Does any of the members have a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Delegate Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm trying to process what I'm hearing as two totally different things, so I'm trying to process that. So it seemed as if, on the one hand, it was being said, this is not a notification of your property, and on the other hand, it's saying it is a step in the notification of your property by current law. Are both of those things true? Is that what I'm hearing?
Delegate Adams, if you look at the statute, current statute now, it does the advertising requirement, the notice provisions to the individual say you have to do notice to the individual. When you get to the second step, the advertising requirement for the auction, there is nothing in the statute. There's three things that have to be in the thing, and it does not include the name of the person, the address of the person, anything identifying about it. It is truly just a general notice, hey, lot 27 is going to be auctioned on Saturday at 10 a.m. There's nothing personally identifying about that at all. Unlike legal notices and liens, when you have a house or a mortgage or that type of thing, the law in Virginia requires you to put the person's name in the advertisement. There's no requirement for this in code now for this advertisement to specifically identify the person. It's just a general notice.
Follow up, Mr. Chair.
Delegate Adams.
Thank you. So by basically removing this newspaper notification, is that then eliminating that third step of notification to the person?
We would argue the newspaper advertisement doesn't notify the person at all.
And I think I was obviously argue the other side. I mean, I think from a state's perspective, I mean, what the interest of the state to be able to put this in the paper is because it's someone's public and it's private property that's being sold. That's the interest of the state. While the state isn't interested in advertising the auction only. I mean, we think it's an idea. Sure, they have to advertise the auction as the last stop for someone's private property being sold. That's the state interest. That's why we cared about putting it in the paper along with other items. That's our position on that.
Mr. Chair, last question, please.
Delegate Adams.
Would anybody from like DLS be able to say if this would actually remove this from the law? Because it seems like we're talking about the law, and so there should be some clarity about what it does and doesn't do, and I'm still confused.
Ashley?
If you look at lines 70, 71, and 72, it sets out exactly what has to be in the newspaper advertisement. It doesn't have anything personally identifying about it.
67 to 69 lays out your options in the paper, and then we just change this to or. And then 70 to 72 says a publicly accessible website. And here is a copy of one from one of my local newspapers that suggests on January 18th, 2022 at 1 p.m., unit CO65 and E119 are up for sale. So I agree with them 100% on your house, on any foreclosure, on any mortgage, a lien on the biggest asset of your life. But in this case, they've tried to get you to either pay the bill or please come get the contents of the storage. Now it is just the disposition of the property.
All right. Let's see.
Mr. Chairman, are you ready for a motion?
Well, just ask any members had a question, but, all right. The chair will entertain a motion.
I move to table, Mr. Chair.
Well, the motion before us is to table, which is excuse me.
Give a second.
Yeah, do we have a second on tabling? No, we do not. So, second. All right, motion and a second. All right, members will cast their vote on the voting machine. All right, the motion to lay on the table is passes by a vote of 5-3. So,
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members Committee, let's give this one a better try. How about that?
Yeah, say let's try again.
Just Senate Bill number 575, and there is a substitute to this one, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, asking you report the substitute.
Mr. Chairman, that substitute should be available on IHOD and LAS for you to review.
And Mr. Chairman, if you'd like, while you're pulling it up, I'll outline the changes in the substitute from the bill that you've read and seen before you, and explain it. VDOT came to me. They had to get clearance from Clarence to speak and to get permission to make their suggestions. They did. Also, the Volvo plant out in Western Virginia had come to me the first week and said, we don't know that there's an issue. We just want to let you know they did have some questions that they wanted, and that's the reason we're substituting late. So nothing nefarious by any party that brought this to me. But you will see on lines 23 to 25, previously we discussed including medium-duty and heavy-duty vehicles. All right, that was the problem that Volvo had. At this point, that market is not fully defined. There's a question on the calculator that I'll discuss in a moment. So they just asked for us to press pause on medium duty and light duty vehicles. That means medium duties and heavy duty. So on line 29 and 30, we defined what this now covers. And that is a change to speak to light duty only under 14,000 pounds. Line 37 is VDOT's request. We had already excluded emergency vehicles in law enforcement. We added incident response or other emergency response activities. So that's the VDOT exclusion. And then in lines 50 on is just setting up a work group to make sure that this calculator that I'll explain to you in a moment that comes along with the medium duty and heavy duty is effectively parsed out. We don't use any particular brand's calculator, and you see the charges to the work group to report back to us when the market will be ready and when those vehicles will be able to be included. That's the difference in the substitute in what you previously saw, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Mason. Does does anybody in the audience
Mr. Chair.
want to speak to the bill?
Mr. Chair, the substitute's not before.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I'll move the substitute.
Second.
All those in favor of the adopting substitute, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the substitute's before us.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Chairman, this is designed that when the fleets go to replace their vehicle, you use a publicly available calculator, and DGS will lay out which, guidance in which calculator. These are free and publicly available, and you'll just compare comparable vehicles. So you see a Taurus all the time or a van that in the state fleet. This would say, just put in the calculator what your anticipated uses are and compare the standard gas vehicle to an electric vehicle, and then buy the one that's the most efficient. Buy the one that's the most economical long-term for the fleet. You see on line 16, we speak to comparable vehicles, and as I've said before, we exempt emergency vehicles, but in previous testimony, somebody said, hey, what if you're going from Mecklenburg to Abington every week and you're worried about charging stations along the way? You can ask for an exemption saying, I'm worried about the route and this car might not set up well for it. Another very key component here, Mr. Chairman and members, is that it is taking into consideration the entire cost of setting it up. So you'll see on line 23, all costs the agency must incur to add chargers or other fueling facilities to support the vehicles. So this is really designed to pick the most cost-efficient, the most economical vehicles as we replace our fleet, and we committed to electric vehicles. This is asking us to move in that direction, utilizing it when it makes sense.
Mr. Chairman, I move to report.
Second.
Shut up a while.
That was, all right, we're rocking and rolling. All right, we've got a motion before us. The seconded, the members will cast their vote on the electronic voting machine.
Thank you.
All right, the bill reports 8-0, Senator Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
All right, let me see. Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I have Senate Bill 400. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to have a couple of amendments to offer, but I thought I would frame the issue a little bit before I offer those amendments. Senate Bill 400 deals with agritourism event buildings. As you're all aware, in agritourism, a lot of these buildings are formerly just barns, livestock use, and what have you. So there are exemptions, farm use exemptions from a lot of the things that we require typically. This is aimed at putting some minimum safety standards in place for these types of buildings. So we attempted to reach some consensus about what we would require and to put in place a stakeholder group to continue to discuss and make recommendations on what additional things might need to be done. Came out of the Senate pretty much unanimously, but since then we've had particularly some of the localities that have been interested in doing more than we're recommending come forward that have engaged in the conversation. So I'd like to do two things, Mr. Chairman. Certainly in reference to the stakeholder group, we have a group there that you'll see in subparagraph B that would be established by this bill. I'd like to add to that group, and I believe you all might have an amendment on that with Ashley here on to add craft breweries to that group of stakeholders. So that would be my first amendment, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Ashley.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. And Senator Hanger, did you want me to just report that first amendment and then let you talk about?
Yes, right.
Okay. So well, really, it's all of them. So on line 27, after the word 7, which is stricken, the first instance of 7, strike 8 and insert 9. The same amendment is on line 27. We are going to, after the word 7, strike the remainder of line 27 and insert the word 9. And then on line 29, after association, insert the Virginia Craft Brewers Guild, comma.
All righty.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd
All
like
right,
for you to adopt that.
Senator Hanger.
I'd like for you to adopt that amendment if you
Okay, all right,
could.
we have the amendment before us. Is there a motion to adopt?
Second. I move to adopt the amendment.
Second, all right, we have a motion to adopt and seconded. All those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the amendment's before us. Senator
Thank you,
Hanger.
Mr. Chairman. And as you're looking at the bill there, this would require the Board of Housing and Community Development to promulgate regulations with certain standards that we will want to put in as basic standards, fire extinguishers, manner of egress, and what have you. But as I indicated, particularly the local governments, some of them around the state, would like to see us be more aggressive. And obviously, places like the Farm Bureau and the Agribusiness Council, the wineries and craft brewers would like it just like it is, or less. So what I would like to recommend to you, Mr. Chairman, is an amendment that would basically allow us to move forward with the stakeholder group, but for paragraph A and paragraph C, which actually would require the regulatory format on these types of recommendations, that we put a reenactment clause in place so that they actually wouldn't go in place, but the stakeholder group could move forward and hopefully build some consensus on what we would be moving forward with. So that's, Mr. Chairman, if you all would entertain that, if you're agreeable to that, I would like to do that.
Thank you, Senator. Does the members understand what we're doing here? Everybody good? All right, and
Mr. Chairman, if you would.
Delegate Wright.
Have the staff to explain to us what we're doing.
Ashley, can you help us out here?
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Chairman. So basically, at the end of the bill, there will be a second enactment clause that says that the provisions of subsections A and C of this act shall not become effective unless reenacted by the 2023 session of the General Assembly.
All right, thank you. All right.
And Mr. Chairman, there are people that will speak in favor, and I think some of the potential opposition is fine with this, that we will put the stakeholder group in place.
All right, those who'd like to speak to the bill,
We voted on the amendment, sir.
hold on, wait a minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the subcommittee.
Mr.
My name is
Chairman.
Bonnie Atwood.
Hey, Ms. Atwood, can you suspend just for a second? Do we need to adopt the amendments?
So we need to adopt it? Is that what you're saying, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
All right, move to adopt.
Second.
All those in favor of the amendment say aye. All opposed? All right, move forward. Ms. Atwood.
Thank you. I represent the Virginia Fire Prevention Association, which is mostly comprised of the fire marshals. So they are passionate about fire safety. They also support agritourism. And with the reenactment change, I can say they would support this because they are one of the groups that would like to see it be more aggressive. They wrote something, I want to just read 2 sentences of it so that I can get across how strongly they feel. We desire to find the solution specifically for venues that invite large groups of people for non-farm related events into their buildings to provide for the safety of the public, who predominantly assumes that these event structures are built to the same codes as the assembly buildings they frequent on a daily basis, and hope that this body will address that lingering issue in the near future. We agree that something must be done before a catastrophic event occurs. Unfortunately, history will repeat itself. So I hope that just gives you an idea how strongly they feel. about all these fire issues, and I thank Senator Hanger for working on this bill.
Thank you, Ms. Atwood, and just thank you. I just want to ask the witnesses, it's been a long day, so if you could be brief, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. Phyllis Arico with the Virginia Association of Counties, and we've been working with the Virginia Municipal League in some localities, and we thank Senator Hanger for bringing this bill forward. We also support these industries. We want them in our localities, but we want to do it in a way that protects the public. And we thank Senator Hanger very much for the changes and for allowing this group to get together.
Thank you. Thank you. Here you go. And, Mr. Shree.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Kyle Shreve on behalf of the Virginia Agribusiness Council. That's my theme song. No. Mr. Chairman, we obviously have been working on this problem for a long time. This is not new, and we're proponents and supporters of the underlying bill. With the reenactment clause, we're fine with that work moving forward, but we would like to see it addressed under the current format and structure, and that's why we're supportive of the bill. I've also been asked to register the support of the Virginia Wineries Association for the underlying bill as well.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Andrew Smith, Virginia Farm Bureau Federation, and we support the bill as it came over. But we appreciate the senator working with us to support the amendment, and we'll continue to work on the issue. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Good evening. Sorry about the back in black this morning. Paige Warning with the Virginia Craft Brewers Guild. We're in full support of the bill. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, Chris Nolan's McGraw Woods on behalf of Rockingham County. We support the amended bill as before you. So thank you very much and look forward to working.
All right. Thank you. All right. Any final words, Senator?
Well, thank you. I would appreciate if y'all would report favorably the amended bill. Thank you.
All right. Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to report as amended.
All right. We have a motion to report and seconded. Members will cast their vote on the electronic voting machine. Clerk, close the roll. The bill reports 8-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you. Senator Locke.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is Senate Bill 153. And Senate Bill 153, the position of Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion is already a position that exists in the governor's cabinet. And what this bill simply does is to elevate that position to be a full secretary. And for this position to be successful at engaging the state workforce across 100+ agencies and building upon the work that makes Virginia the best state for which to do business, the position will need supports commensurate with the other cabinet members. So that's why this bill is before you. It simply moves it from being a director to a secretary.
All right. Thank you. Does any of the members have a question for the patron? Do we have any testimony from the audience? There you go. All right.
Christian Martinez, Advocacy Specialist for CASA, and we support this bill.
All right, thank you. Any, all right.
Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Wright.
I think the motion should be to report and refer.
Yep, I think we have a letter on this one. So, do we have a second? The motion is to report and refer to appropriations. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman.
Wake up, committee.
Mr. Chairman, if I could
Yes,
speak
sir.
to that. Senator, I think because of the significant fiscal impact that it would be appropriate to refer to appropriations.
I expected that.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we have the motion and the second. Of course, the members will cast their vote on the electronic voting machine. bill reports out 7-1.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, let's see, who we got next? We got Obenshain, let's see. Yep. Senator Obenshain.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, good to see you this evening. I have Senate bill, I have one of mine, and Senator Suderline, I think, has two bills in the subcommittee. His wife is
That's correct.
having a baby.
That's correct.
So I have his two bill folders. So if you'll hear mine first, I have Senate Bill 128. This is, I believe, a clarifying bill. The definition of small businesses in the code defines small businesses as including corporations. However, the regs define it differently as a corporation controlled by stockholders. The problem is there are corporations called cooperatives that do not have stockholders, but they are owned by individual members. And this makes it clear, and those are corporations. They are organized pursuant to the Virginia State Corporation Act. They just don't have shareholders. So this is a clarifying bill that simply clarifies that the definition of corporations for purposes of participating in this program includes cooperatives.
All right. Thank you, Senator. Do any members have a question for the patron?
Mr. Chairman, I move to report.
All right, we have a motion to report. It's been seconded, and members will cast their vote on the electronic voting machine. Close the roll, and that bill reports out 8-0, and I believe we want to take up
If we could do
Mr. Suderline.
510.
Oh, excuse me.
That is before you, right?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct. 510 is before us, yes.
510 is brought, I believe, on behalf of the Realtors Association. It deals with the situation that occurs when a broker who is a sole proprietor dies or becomes disabled, and sets forth a hierarchy for the manner in which the business is to be wound down. And it creates a hierarchy in which the licensed broker, number one, designates another licensed broker to wind down the business for him in the event of his death or disability. If that person is unable or unwilling to do it, then it is the real estate board who is to appoint somebody from a list of options in order to step in and close out the business. And then if those people aren't available, it creates a third tier that allows the brokers to designate a successor broker it allows the board to appoint any other licensed broker to close out the business. So it's for the orderly termination of a real estate brokerage business.
All right, thank you, Senator. Does any of the members have a question for the patron? And all right, we have a motion to report and seconded. The members will cast their vote on the electronic voting machine. Close the roll. That one reports at 8-0. I believe Senator Suderline has one more.
One more, Senate Bill 146. Section 35.1-14 deals with the regulations governing restaurants. And right now, there is a regulation that requires restaurants selling prepared foods to, at all times, have a certified food production manager on site during all hours of operation. And there are some very small restaurants. And the example given was the Texas Tavern in Roanoke, for which the small number of people working there, it's virtually impossible for them to have a certified food protection manager there on premises at all times. So this eliminates that requirement.
All right. Does any of the members have a question, or I think Delegate Adams? All right.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to report and second. All the members will cast their vote in the electronic voting machine. All right, close roll. Bill reports out
Mr. Chairman,
8-0.
Mr. Chairman, as a point of clarification, Senator Obenchain, the best Texas Inn is in Lynchburg, regardless of the way things are.
I do understand that. And I'm going to see if Senator Sewerline's wife can have a baby every time I come present bills. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. We have Senator Spruill has a bill.
Want us to try to call him or ask me to know it's coming?
I thought that maybe he sent somebody. No.
Hashmi.
Is that?
Hashmi.
Yeah, no, we're waiting on her. Senator Hashmi is on the way, so we're going to suspend just for a second.
Mr. Chairman.
Committee will go at ease.
Mr. Chairman, do you want a motion on 679?
Not yet. Because he may show up late. I thought we got some kind of note from.
I thought you meant he wasn't going to be here.
Yeah. I can do it if you want. Rules bill? Yeah, we can handle it. Yeah.
All right, bring up Spruill.
Mr. B. Let me see. So, are you ready to present Senate Bill 679?
Happy
Senate bills? All right. Former Delegate Habib.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Senate Bill 679 with a substitute will essentially be Delegate Head's bill that has already passed the full House with an emergency clause and is on the Senate floor, having gone through committee unanimous. Senator Spruill's bill came over from the Senate unanimous. We want to conform Senator Spruill's bill to Delegate Head's bill, except we want to leave off the emergency clause, just in case things get weird late in session. So that would be the motion, hopefully.
Right,
Mr. Chairman, I move.
Delegate Moorfield.
Move to conform the bill
Second.
without the emergency clause.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
So with that, it's essentially the same bill. This is a very important consumer bill. Consumers need pre-need insurance to fund funeral needs when they can't afford to pay for them all in one lump sum. Without this bill, this will not be accessible to consumers. They will lose this access to these important services. So we hope you act favorably on the bill, as you did on Delegate Head's bill.
Any members have any questions for the chief patron pinch hitter? All right, Chair will entertain a motion.
Second.
All right, motion second. Members will cast their vote on the electronic voting machine. Close roll. The bill reports 8-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of
You
the
still got it.
My bills used to die all the time.
All right, the committee will be at ease. We're waiting for Senator Hashmi. Target Runyon.
Motion to lay on the table, sir.
Okay, well, okay, we have a motion to lay on tables. There's a second. Do we have a second?
What, to lay on the table?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
All right, there's a motion to lay on the table, and there's a second. It's not debatable, so the members will cast their vote on the electronic voting machine. Senator Hashmi, the bill's laid on the table 5-3.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. That completes our docket. Subcommittee 1 is adjourned.
is called to order. Everyone, please take your seats, and we'll take roll on the board. Is she in her seat? All right. We're not recording Luke's Delegate Tori, and you're okay. All right, we have a quorum. Okay, the first item of business is a report from General Law Subcommittee number 5, Delegate Lady Chair Brewer. Do you have a report?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Subcommittee number 5 met earlier this evening, and we were able to gladly report Senator Hanger's bill, Senate Bill 391, I believe, and 591. I'm sorry. There's 291s here. And I would move that we report that bill.
Okay, was
that
that
the subcommittee 8-0?
Was that a recommendation to report and refer to appropriations?
I did not have a letter, but if that's the request of the chair, I'll gladly do so.
Okay. All right. Well, I thought I had a note that needed to go to appropriations. Did you have anything? Okay. All right. All right. So, all right. I'm mistaken. That does not need to go to appropriations, unless someone wants to correct me. All right. There's a motion to report that bill, and there is a second. All members, please cast your vote on the board. Delegate Wampler, your vote is not recorded. Delegate Robinson, yours is not reported. Delegate Torian.
Wampler's there.
All right.
Murphy. Murphy's recording right now. That's everybody.
Okay. That bill reports on a vote of 21-1. Next on the agenda are Senate bills with identical House bills that actually, House bills did not actually make it. The first is House Bill 550, Delegate Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is one that's been through a number of iterations. I believe there is a substitute. Can I confirm which one? Let's see. Is the 45-day payment? Mr. Chairman, that's a substitute, or is it? Yeah. The substitute addresses a couple things. It put in, we're trying to satisfy as many concerns we could. It put in payment terms, which extended to 45 days, and also addressed insolvency. So if you want to, do you have that online, or can you? Okay. Mr. Chairman, I know the hour's late. You want me to go ahead and start explaining, or you want to wait for this?
Why don't you start with the substance of the bill? Can I explain is it online now? Okay, all right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill really seeks to address a problem that has developed. It's not with Virginia companies. In fairness, it's with companies who are from other states and are not paying their subcontractors. And this seeks to clarify language to where subcontractors would receive payment. We don't have a problem with Virginia companies. They're paying this. And ironically, the research shows that many of the companies that are doing this are from North Carolina, and this law that I'm putting in was drafted from the North Carolina law, which has been in place since the 80s. We've worked very hard with the Association of General Contractors. I wish I could tell you we had peace in the valley. Right now, we don't. We've tried our very best to get there. We've made a number of adjustments to try to make this fair. But I do want to thank them for working with us so diligently. The reason why I'm here, and frankly, I'm going to tell you the question that Delegate Fowler asked me a few days ago when we ran each other in the parking garage. What do I want to achieve with this? What do I want? I just want some subcontractors to get paid for the work that they perform. That's it. Virginia companies, if they've done the work, it's satisfactory. I just want them to get paid. And unfortunately, if we use mechanics liens and other tools that are out there, that means they could wait up to 2 years to get paid and sometimes get 30% of the payment, which is not fair. And unfortunately, right now, this is being put in every contract. So if you want work, you either take it with this clause that could keep them from getting paid, or you don't take the work, which causes a great problem. So that's really all I want. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and I know we've got a number of people to speak to this bill. Again, I wish we could find total peace, but I don't think we can.
Can you tell us what the difference is between the substitute and the original bill?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. It really added the payment terms, which extended it to 45 days of payment to try to define that and give some leeway so it would be clear how long it would take to make a payment. And the other thing it did, it addressed if there was bankruptcy or insolvency. So the bankruptcy laws would be precedent there. So if a general contractor would not have to make payment to a sub if they declared bankruptcy.
Okay, thank you. All right, do you have anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the bill?
Mr. Chairman, Rob Bohannon, representing the Richmond Dairy Municipal Contractors Association. I want to thank Senator Bell, for his work on this bill. A little bit of background information. We actually worked with two of your colleagues who came to us in the House of Delegates who work in this space in their professional life, and they brought some concerns, asked if we could address them, and this substitute is actually the result of some of their work based on their experience in the field and addressing some of their concerns. Been happy to work with stakeholders throughout this process. We actually started this dialogue with AGC back in October on this issue. You're going to hear from some subcontractors. They're going to tell you about how this actually practically works in the field and everything. But one of the concerns is we've heard when this bill was in the Senate, we heard from at least one opponent that the status quo system was needed for leverage over subcontractors, and that's part of the problem we're dealing with. We just want to make sure, as Senator Bell laid out, you do the work, it's done defect-free, you get paid for it. There's clauses in the bill that say if there is a problem with the work, the GC has the ability to tell the subcontractor why the work is deficient, to withhold payment for that. That's all protected. But if the work is done as contracted for, we want to make sure the subcontractors get paid. Thank you.
Okay. And just for clarification purposes, we have not adopted this substitute yet, and I don't really want to do that right now because I understand there's some that like the bill the way it originally was, there's some that like the substitute, there's some that don't like the bill at all within its original state, and there's some that don't like the substitute. So as speakers come forward, if you could briefly tell the committee what your position is on the underlying bill and that substitute, and I understand that from you, Mr. Bohannon, that you like the substitute.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is William Roberts. I represent Leasefield Contractor out of Goochland, Virginia. We support the substitute. And just to point out, subcontractors gave up quite a bit of ground with that substitute. So it extended the payment. It doesn't protect the general contractor from bankruptcy, but it protects if the owner goes bankrupt, that the general contractor is not taking all the liability. So the subcontractors gave up quite a bit of ground there. As a member of the subcontracting community, this is of great importance to us. It protects us all and our ability to get paid for our work. But there's much more at stake here than just protection of Virginia's subcontractors. The payment that flows from general contractors to the subcontractor is then cast a wide net to many varied businesses throughout the state. So there are 11 trade associations and more than 250 companies that support this legislation. I think I can speak for many of them when they would support the substitute. So some of the negotiations with the AGC were different, and I know that the ground that we were willing to give up, they would be fine with this substitute. These businesses are located throughout the Commonwealth to include subcontractors of every construction trade, material suppliers, engineers, and equipment dealers. Many of these subcontractors operate as prime contractors, as well understand both sides of this argument well. Leasefield is a prime and a subcontractor. Many of these companies are members of the AGC, which is one of the sole major opposition to this bill. So we have 11 trade associations for it. But the groups that I mentioned before, they are the majority membership of the AGC. Subs and suppliers make up more than 70% of the membership of the AGC. Just wanted to point that out. Collectively, these companies and the companies represented by the trade associations employ tens of thousands of Virginians. A vote in support of this bill is a vote for all of them. In conclusion, members of the committee, we ask that you support this bill so that there can be a little more equity to the Virginia contracting community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'm Joe Piacentino. I represent Colonial Web Contractors Company. We have about 750 employees here in Virginia in 9 locations, and sort of the crux of it is that we're expected to pay our employees every week, or they don't show up the next week to the job site. We pay our vendors in 30 to 45 days, or they stop shipping us our equipment and material. And we believe that the general contractor really is in the best position to evaluate the financial wherewithal of an owner and to build a job, and we feel like they're in the best place to manage that risk. So we feel like it's the general contractor's responsibility to make sure that subcontractors get paid for their correctly installed work. Thank you so much. We certainly support the bill as amended.
All right. Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else in the audience in support? Okay.
Hi, Julia Carlo Hammond on behalf of Associated Builders and Contractors. We have a mix of both general contractors and subcontractors. And I feel like I'm in a little weird area. We prefer the substitute to the original bill, and though we have mentioned to the patron that there are still some concerns, so we would love the opportunity to continue working with the patron on that. And to give an example, there is language in the bill that some GCs could drive a truck through that wouldn't allow for payment in the same prompt manner that the subs expect and want it in. And then on the flip side, there are some, under the liability side, we have concerns on behalf of the GC. So again, the patron's been wonderful to work with, and we hope we can continue doing so.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak in favor of the substitute or the underlying bill? All right, we'll hear from those who are opposed.
I'm Jack, Chair. I'm Jack Dyer, President of Virginia Contractors Procurement Alliance, as well as I'm an owner of Gulf Seaboard General Contractors. We oppose the bill. Really, I'm empathetic to the subcontractors that have some issues as far as getting paid. They should get paid if they've completed the work, and there's no items out there that require some adjudication or something. They should get paid. I have no problem with that. But we have a code, a prompt payment code, that's presently takes care of that, and it takes care of it very well. Right now, what the what the Senate bill does, it basically gets the General Assembly, brings the General Assembly in, and interjects government into the relationship between two private parties, general contractor and a subcontractor. Not only does that, basically it goes through and says in this particular bill, there are certain terms that are not going to be enforceable anymore. Again, another interjection. Also, with that, you become an arbitrator of risk, and you become an arbitrator of basically self-accountability, and that's what's happening with this bill. There are avenues, are remedies out there for the subcontractor to collect. On public work, there is a payment performance bond. On private work, there is a lien process. And also on the regulatory side, you have a regulatory board for contractors that could help in this situation, securing payment for subcontractors that basically have violators out there that are not paying their bills. On the statutory side of the regulatory body, on the board for contractors for DPOR, that could help. That could potentially help out. We're asking basically, this is not a good bill. It sets a precedent that basically where the government is getting into private businesses, private relationships, and it's interjecting itself, and it's picking winners and losers. And I don't think that's good for government to do. We have avenues, we have codes out there that you have already established, the General Assembly established. And again, I mention them again, lien laws, you got regulatory boards that can help there. if there's some adjustment that needs to happen there, we're willing to stand up at the table, work along with the people, and let's find a solution for non-payment. This is not a solution. This is not going to help subcontractors get paid. It will establish another layer that basically will not help. It's not going to help at all. We would like to see the bill laid over. Let's get the parties together. Give us some time. We just got this about 30 days ago, January 27th. All the stakeholders have not been able to sit down at the table and figure out what is a solution to this problem. This bill is not it. It takes the Prompt Payment Act and it literally destroys it. You have two provisions in there that's gone, that's been very successful in taking care of this. And as what Senator Bell mentioned, the Virginia boys, the Virginia-based contractors, they're not the problem. You're going to blow up the Prompt Payment Act. And Senator Bell said it's mainly North Carolina contractors. Right now, there's 455 license holders, RBC, CBC license holders from North Carolina. With the state of Virginia, it's almost 21,000 RBC, CBC license holders, general contractors. So we're going to sit here and blow up Prompt Payment Act that takes care of the Virginia contractors over a few bad apples from North Carolina. 98% of
Yeah, I'm going to ask you to try to wrap it up. I'll probably let you go on a little bit longer than I would let most people, but just if you could just...
Again, we would ask you to lay this bill down, roll it over, whatever one you want to do. Give us an opportunity to sit down, look at the lien laws, look at the Board of Contractors, Deport Board of Contractors, sit down with them, see if we can come up with some revisions that can help strengthen the present code in that respect to help them get paid.
Okay. Thank you. Next speaker.
And we do not agree with the supplement.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Lauren Eccles, and I'm with MDB Strategies, and I am here speaking tonight on the behalf of Scott Schuffelberger, who could not be here because he had some prior commitments. Scott is with the Virginia Association of Roofing Professionals and the International Institute of Building Envelope Consultants. We are strongly opposed to the bill in its original format and the substitute. Our association, just as Jack said, our associations are very empathetic to the issues surrounding this bill. However, we do not think that this is the appropriate solution. We are very interested in meeting after session with all appropriate parties to speak a thoughtful and meaningful solution to the issue, and we ask that you vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Tom Evans, general contractor, 47 years. I've handled millions of dollars of subcontracts. Yeah, we have disputes every now and then, but you make those disputes. This bill would make the general contractor liable to pay if the owner didn't pay him. And so we can't take on that responsibility. And there are laws that protect everybody to do that. As you've heard, it seems the bad players are from out of town, and so are from out of state. So this bill really it needs to be killed, or whatever you want to say. And the members of the industry need to get together again through the summer, which we're certainly willing to do, and see if we can't come up with agreements on how we can. We recognize that there are issues, but we need to come together as an industry and solve that, not the General Assembly.
Okay. Thank you. Next speaker.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Patrick Cushing on behalf of the American Institute of Architects and American Council of Engineering Companies. We are late entries into this discussion. We are opposed to the bill that existed prior to the substitute. I sat down with Senator Bell tonight and we had a great discussion, and I can't take a position on the substitute on behalf of my clients, but I know that Senator Bell has committed to working with many of the stakeholders, including us, and so wanted to register what I would call our prior opposition, but will, I guess, have to remain neutral on the substitute as it's presented today. So,
Okay. Thank you. We do have three individuals who signed up to speak online, and the first two are for the bill. So we'll hear from Mr. Ike Casey first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm the Executive Director. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
I'm the Executive Director of the American Subcontractors Association of Metro Washington. I'm also representing the Alliance for Construction Excellence, and we are in favor of the substitute. We hear in these conversations about freedom of contract. The parties need to get together, but the general contractor has the job, and the general contractor has the money, and it's not a fair situation when the subcontractor does the work and completes the work and cannot get paid because of a clause in the contract. Now, the parties can get together from now on, but there's not going to be an agreement that the subcontractors have a right to payment if the general contractor hasn't been paid. So we're just going to close the door for those subcontractors. They're not going to be able to get the money because if they take, particularly small contractors, I represent a lot of finishing contractors, and they're the ones that really get hurt in this situation. The job is finished, most of the subs have been paid, but the owner decides they don't want to pay for certain parts of the job, for change orders. And they're just left holding the bag. And we've talking about a lot of minority and women small companies that can do this kind of work, but they can't do it successfully if they're not properly paid. And we need to eliminate this contingent payment clause. There are 11 states that have almost exactly the same language that you have in this bill. Everything works great in those states. The general contractors don't go out of business. Other states like Texas have laws in place that do the same thing, although they don't name it the same way. I think everybody in this room wants subcontractors to get paid for the work that they've done properly and completed and invoiced properly. But there are cases where a clause like this will really hurt a contractor. He'll take it to his or her attorney, and the attorney will see that clause, pay if paid, and they'll say, you got no rights. We ask that you please pass the substitute. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Casey. I understand that Mr. Chad Gill is not online. He had signed up to speak in favor. So we'll go with next to Mr. Robinson. Can you hear us?
No relation.
Yes, sir. I'm
All right.
here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brandon Robinson with the Associated General Contractors. First, I want to commend Senator Bell for working with us and trying to get there with us, as well as Ramka and the other stakeholders on this. Like I think several folks have said, we want subcontractors to get paid. AGC represents both generals and subs. However, we just haven't been able to get to a place where we can agree to language. There's still several things that are concerned, and we'll keep working on this regardless. But as far as the underlying bill and the substitute before you this evening, we are in opposition.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Does anybody on the committee have questions of the patron or any of the witnesses? All right, Delegate Jenkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for my understanding, in my former life, I was a contract administrator. And does this bill say that the prime contractor or the general contractor is responsible for paying all of the subcontractors regardless of the tier level?
Mr. Chairman, the bill says that it goes over the subcontractor and the work they would done, and it would apply to tier levels, but it would only be if work were completed to satisfaction. And again, there are provisions if the work was not satisfactory.
Okay. All right.
Follow-up question.
Delegate Jenkins.
And I don't think my question was really answered. The general contractor is going to be responsible for paying all tier levels.
Mr. Chairman, I think I get your question now. I apologize. If you're saying if it's a tier below a sub, then it would be that subcontractor. It would not be the GC. GC would be to the sub, and then that sub would be responsible for subs under them.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other members have questions? I have a few, but Chad Gill has shown up, and so we're going to let last witness testify real briefly, if you don't mind. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I'm a subcontractor. I do work with lots of these. We're mostly a member of AGC and the ASA. And this bill is really, really important to us. And it's one of these times when we really need government to step in and help. I am in no fewer than 3 of these already this year for situations like this where we have approved work. These are change orders that were directed to us by the general contractor. And then now at this point in time, they're telling us that, the owner doesn't want to pay for the project, doesn't want to pay for the change order. We were directed by them. We have change orders. They're approved. They're signed off. And now we get them done. And that's because the general contractor has that ability. They do it. This isn't just about the main contract. This is about the change order work that they direct, approve, engage us to do. We're contractually obligated to do it without even being able to get approved pricing. And then to come back, and then it's on us. And what we hear constantly from the AGC is telling us, well, it's not okay. This is a risk we can't have our general contractors responsible for this degree of risk in a contract. Yet out of the same side of their mouth, or the other side perhaps, the same thing they say is, well, if you don't like this and you can't handle this degree of risk, you shouldn't engage in these contracts. Telling that to subcontractors. And that's the same argument cut both ways. There's no situation where we get paid and then decide whether or not we're going to do the work. And I think that's very frustrating for subcontractors. And the smaller you are, because as a subcontractor, sometimes I have subs under me and subs under them. We have to pass this down because there's no way to fund these items. And so the smaller the contractor is, the bigger and more destructive this is to these contractors. So if you're looking to protect small minority businesses, this is the bill that does it. This is how you do it. The general contractor is the only one with a true relationship to the client. In some of our contracts, we are prohibited from talking to the owner. If they need to be certain, if they need a payment bond from their owner, get one. If they need a strong contract that ensures that they get paid, get one. That's their job. That is the only reason they're in existence, to have a relationship with the owner and to direct us for our work. And we should be paid when it's done. If the owner is insolvent, they go bankrupt, something like that, sure, there's scenarios like that. But the default should not be, I'll pay you if I can get it. That's not the way the contracts are supposed to work. So I strongly encourage you to move this bill forward. I'm happy to answer any question you have about it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gill. Okay. Anyone else any member of the committee have any questions? Had a couple. Senator Bell, if you need to phone a friend, that's okay. The first is we heard testimony that this bill would blow up the Prompt Payment Act. And so what is your response to that?
I'm going to phone a friend, but my general response is it would not do that. Prompt payment is really applicable to public jobs, government jobs. This also, and that's the general contractor who would be getting paid, not the sub. But let me step aside and let my experts.
I'm sure someone behind me will step in and need to. One of the reasons the substitute was worded the way it does, you saw a 45-day payment on the private side. There is prompt pay on public contracts. Everyone, at least with our association, agrees that works really well. The Commonwealth, you'll all be happy to hear, is very good at paying their bills. So that's an issue about, it's more about if the GC didn't want to pay, but the really prompt pay, we worded it the way it did and didn't have the 45-day because prompt pay is already in place. We don't want to upset that because it does work. Did I miss anything?
No, you covered it exactly. So, yeah, we went right back through it to make sure prompt payment is protected on the public side.
Okay. I hate to put council on the spot, but do you see any conflict between the Prompt Pay Act and the language of this bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And no, we do not see any conflict between the Prompt Payment Act of the Procurement Act and this bill.
Okay, thank you. Second question is, if I can read my handwriting. Oh, so the other criticism we heard is that this bill is not going to solve the problem. So if it's not going to solve the problem, tell me why you have brought this bill forward and why you think it will solve the problem.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will tell you right off the bat, this is complicated. That's why we've gone through several iterations, and frankly, why we don't have a common agreement here, because it's very complicated. The bottom line is, I would say, first off, the status quo isn't working well. It's not working well for Virginia companies who do good work and don't get paid. So if the remedies of mechanics, liens, et cetera, were good, I wouldn't be here. People are not getting paid for up to 2 years, but yet, as the gentleman said, they still have to buy their materials, they still have to pay their employees. So that's a problem. They also, frankly, it's part of their reputation to continue to do good work and to be honest with their commitments. We're here because those mechanisms don't work well. Those mechanisms are not getting them through, particularly in the tough business environment. This would actually make sure that every contract would not have clauses that would prevent the subcontractor from getting paid for satisfactory work. So I believe it would solve the problem. I wish I had a crystal ball and could look in the future and tell you that. But I believe it would solve the problem and it would address these concerns very directly.
Okay. Next question. So we heard testimony that if the owner withholds payment from the general, this bill would still require the general to pay the sub. Let's say you have a situation outside of bankruptcy. What does this bill do to that situation?
I'm gonna phone a friend here to talk on that, but I'll give you a basic answer if I can. First, again, as the last speaker said online, a general contractor would have a payment bond or would have other mechanisms to seek relief if the owner authorized work and didn't pay, that the sub would not have. So there are mechanisms in that case where the general contractor could seek relief if the owner didn't pay. But it doesn't cover nearly everything, and for the sub, they're left out of that equation.
Yeah, so my understanding is that the general contractor would be required to pay the sub in this bill. And I do speak for the previous question, this bill would solve, and obviously there's over 250 subcontractors that support this bill. But there's a lot of issues between a general contractor and a subcontractor that the owner is not even involved in. There's things in the construction trade like scope gaps, where the general contractor may not have purchased out the project correctly, and there could be gaps in between the trades. The owner doesn't take this risk. He's bought out a complete package from the general. And this is sometimes when subcontractors are told that the owner won't pay for something, sometimes that answer is a lot more loaded than it actually is.
Okay, thank you.
The last thing I'll say is often on the general contractor I think is responsible to have an arrangement with the owner to make sure they get paid. There's a number of mechanisms, but many times there's progress payments made. If you think of a big project, there's different phases that we go through and there's progress payments made. And the idea is that these subs, which as the gentleman, a couple of our speakers said, are fairly small outfits. And it really hurts them when they don't get paid for the work that they performed. And this would give them the protection they would need to get paid.
Okay.
If I could say one last word, I know there was some indecision about the substitute versus the original. You know, our effort working with people here was to try to accommodate some of the concerns we had. And again, as the one gentleman said, we tried to move towards that with the substitute, and there was ground given up. It was a compromised position. Is it perfect? Do we have peace in the valley? No. But I think Virginia companies not getting paid for the work that they've done, that's quality work for another year, is unacceptable. There were suggestions made, hey, let's carry this over, let's push it off. That may be the will of the committee. I hope not. The reason why I kept forward on this is because I felt like that was just an unacceptable solution for the good people out there doing the work who, frankly, are getting abused by people who aren't from Virginia and who are living by these rules in their home state. And that's just not fair.
Okay. Any questions from the committee after the last series of questions or dialogue that was made? Okay. I'm going to, if the opposition to the bill wants to pick one person to kind of sum up and respond to perhaps some of the questions that were asked, please come forward and please keep it very brief. I mean, I'm torn, and so I know it's late, but I want to hear what everybody has to say.
I present this question in respect to legal advice. Under paragraph 1, it basically specifically states that condition precedent is not acceptable. It's not an enforceable term going forward. Under Prompt Payment Act, item 2 basically says that the contractor shall pay the subcontractor upon payment from the owner. In the same and 2A says in the same proportion as that received from the owner. That in itself is a condition precedent. That in paragraph 1, you basically said and mandated it was unenforceable.
Okay.
That's one of the problems. That's why I've said it blows up.
Okay. All right.
In respect to payment performance bond, the owner does not give the general contractor a payment performance bond. We give an owner a payment performance bond. We do that on all public work above $500,000. We go through the same process that some subcontractor has to go through if an owner does not pay us, and that is the courts. That is through the lien laws, and that is through the courts. That is what is available to us, and that is what is available to the subcontractors as well.
Okay. All right. So just for the committee's edification, if the bill reports out positively, it does go to appropriations, meaning there's another week or so perhaps to work out language if that sways people one way or the other. There is a substitute. So what is the will of the committee on the underlying bill and the substitute?
Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Rome.
I would move to report the substitute and refer to appropriations.
All right, we first need to adopt the substitute.
Oh, adopt the substitute first.
So there's a motion and a second to adopt the substitute. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, the substitute's before us. What's the will of the committee on the
Mr. Chairman?
on the bill and the substitute?
Mr. Chairman.
All right, so I'm sorry, we have a couple.
I have a substitute motion.
Well, let's listen to Delegate Fowler has a question.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, we've been going around on this bill for several weeks now, and you know, I've actually got probably maybe more questions about, you know, how to best resolve this thing now than I did prior. And so again, I really do think this bill, I would like to see the bill actually carried over so we could get these folks into a room and try to solve this thing. I really am hesitant to put this committee and the General Assembly in a position of trying to be a traffic cops on, contractual obligations. And I tell you, it really makes me uncomfortable. And I think both sides have some good arguments, but I mean, I tell you, I would really like to see peace in the valley on this bill, and I will just leave it at that.
Okay.
Mr.
All right,
Chairman.
Delegate Krezek.
Thank you.
Delegate Krezek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we're all in that same kind of place. This is a really important bill for the subcontractors. Obviously, we're a little worried about the contract. But what I would offer a kind of middle ground, which would be to put a 1-year sunset, if it's okay with the patron, put a one-year sunset and see how this thing plays out. I don't think it's going to do the kind of damage that that the contractors are talking about here, and I think that might be a good compromise if the committee would act on that. I would move that as an amendment.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I would support that motion. I know, frankly, some of the subcontractors may not support it, but it would give us relief for these subcontractor payments now, and there'd be a motivated group to come back next year for something else or would die.
Okay, all right. All right, there's a motion to amend the substitute with a 1-year sunset. Was there a second to that? All right, there's a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. The amended substitute is before us. Delegate Walker, you had a question.
Mr. Chairman, I support Delegate Filer's there, in extending this thing. It seemed like simple, but it is actually kind of turned into complex. And I don't think we as legislators are here to referee and try to run businesses. We're here to kind of get out of the way and let them do what they do best. So I would be in support of carrying this thing over for another year and allowing them to try to come together in some way or another. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Delegate Runyon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would support Delegate Krizik's comments, and I'm perhaps one of the more unusual folks in that I'm both a general contractor at times and a subcontractor at times. So that may keep me from voting on this as an abstention, but I don't think so. And so I've experienced these type circumstances, and the circumstances that I believe we have is that subcontractors have so little ability to protect themselves in the real world that I think that let's look at it for a year and see. And I don't know that it's exactly right, and I'm guessing we'll have to fix some things, but it moves us forward, and it doesn't put some of these folks in places that they probably aren't wanting to be. My company is dealing, as of today, with a bankruptcy of a firm that didn't get paid, that now they owe me $16,978, I believe, and they can't pay me because they didn't get paid.
Okay.
So.
Delegate Bola and then Delegate Brewer.
Well, Mr. Chairman, and I guess we can have discussion afterwards, but I just wanted to make sure we had a proper motion before.
There is a proper motion before us. It's the motion to report and refer to appropriations as amended.
Okay, thank you.
Delegate Brewer.
I would submit to the patron and the chair. We talked about this tonight where you wanted to add a year substitute on this. I would say that in the contracting world, a year is a very short period of time. And so, I would say that while I appreciate someone trying to make this bill a little bit better, I just don't think a year gets at the heart of what you're trying to do here. It's a very short time window. So I don't know how I feel about that bill, but would you say that a year might be a very short time?
Mr. Chairman, I think the key is getting relief for these subcontractors now. I mean, obviously, in the COVID world, a lot of them had a really tough time. And then not getting paid makes it even harder for them to meet their payrolls and other obligations. So while it is a short period of time, I would offer it would make a great deal of difference for these subs. I think also, frankly, if this bill were to go forward, there will be a motivated group to work together with goodwill to get this problem solved. I mean, frankly, I point out the Association of General Contractors, even though they opposed the bill, they actually were great partners through this negotiation, which really started in October, not a month ago. And we've worked really hard to get to where we're at. But unfortunately, it's complicated. I'm not sure we're going to get there in this session, but I think this is as good as we can get. I don't think there would be a great deal of harm if it was a 1 year. And I do think in this case, it'll give us a good chance to see what worked and what didn't work. I would also argue, while a lot of times I know we don't want to get involved in these, we're here because there's a problem. And other remedies didn't fix this problem. And that's why, I mean, frankly, I could have done an easier bill. I did this bill because I think there's people out there who are victims and need our help.
Okay, thank you, Delegate Bell. So, just for clarification purposes, a 1 year sunset would actually expire, I'm thinking July 1st of 2023? June 30th. Okay, all right. Okay. All right, so there's a proper motion before us. All members wishing to vote on the matter, please do so on the electronic voting board. All right, okay, okay, yeah, there's a substitute motion. What is your motion?
Yes, sir. First, I want to speak to the motion first.
Okay. Delegate has the floor.
I see the point of the subcontractors. They've got a valid point. There's not any question. But what about these out-of-state general contractors that come in? What effect is this law going to have on them? Is this law going to cover them?
Mr. Chairman, it would. It would cover anybody who comes here and does business in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
But how are we going to enforce that state that, on a company that's not within the state of Virginia and just comes in and does a job and leaves.
Mr. Chairman, this would give a cause of action to companies for this in Virginia, and in the contracts that they would take, they couldn't put provisions to not pay these subs as they do today with the clauses that are in there. So it would provide that protection. I mean, and frankly, again, if you do business in North Carolina, this clause has been in effect since the 80s. These companies are operating there profitably, or they still wouldn't be doing business here today.
Anything else, Delegate Wright?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to table the bill.
All right, there's a motion to table the bill. There's a second. All right, that's the superior motion. The motion is to, and it's not debatable. So all members wishing to, well, all members, please vote. Cast your vote on the electronic voting board. All right, that motion fails on a vote of 15-7, which brings us back to the original motion, which was to report that substitute is amended. All members, please cast and refer to approach. Yes, all members of the committee, please cast your vote on the electronic voting board. Okay, that motion passes on a vote of 17-5. Yeah, I think they'll go fast. Hopefully they'll go faster. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you want me to do my other one or not. I promise it'll be easier.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. You're already up at the podium.
All right. Mr. Chairman, this is the SB 461, the boiler bill.
Okay. House Bill 401. Yeah.
Is it 461?
I'm sorry, Senate Bill 401.
461.
461? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm looking at my cheat sheet wrong. All right, yeah. SB 461.
This one, I can't tell you we have peace in the valley, but I promise it's going to be easier. I didn't know we didn't have peace. It's made out of the Senate 40-0, and I didn't know we didn't have peace till it got here. Basically, it just would provide a certification for boilers and pressure vessels, which are the items that produce heat in a hot water heater, steam for heat in large buildings. The idea is this voluntary program. We did it in a way, frankly, that would not cause a big administrative burden. I will tell you the reason why we did it is because these can be deadly. And frankly, I think it's dangerous to have people operating these boilers, which, if they're not qualified. I did this bill at the request of the apartments and the office building associations, who asked me to do it because they've seen some near misses in this case, and they felt like that we needed a certification program for that. Real quick to tell you how this is, these explosions do happen. They've happened around the country, and they're usually deadly. Most of these explosions are caused by human error. There are already OSHA requirements for inspecting these items, but we're talking about if the water or the pressure settings were incorrect, how they could explode. A 30-gallon residential grade hot water tank at a temperature of 332 degrees with 90 psi, if it were to explode, would have enough force to propel the average car 125 feet into the air with a lifting velocity of 85 miles per hour. These are powerful, and these are basically a bomb. So that's why I think it's important to have a certification, as I said when I talked to you before, just as we would with an elevator. Is there an administrative cost to this? Yes. Do I think it's worth it? Absolutely, and we've tried to minimize it. With that, Mr. Chairman, happy to answer you or any questions.
Anyone on the committee have questions of the patron? Okay. Anyone in support of the bill?
Mr. Chairman and members of the General Laws Committee, my name is David Ferrara. I'm the CEO for NAP Educational Foundation. I'm here in support of Senate Bill 461, I testified before the General Laws and Technology Committee in the Senate on January 22nd, 2020, where it was unanimously voted to report legislation creating licensing for boiler operators in the Commonwealth of Virginia. However, DPOR asked us to pull this bill so we could work with them on this. The study and work group was created and that was completed, and Senator Bell's bill adopted all of their recommendations for this year. The Department of Labor and Industry's website says the key to safe boiler operation is the operator. They discuss common boiler room accidents, which include dry fire accidents, also called boiler meltdowns, excessive pressure accidents, and fuel-related accidents. On a dry pipe accident, water enters a dry boiler and quickly flashes into steam. When water flashes into steam, it's increased in volume by 160,000%. That would be the equivalent of a bathroom trash can being filled with water and flashing into a fiery ball of steam the size of a living room in a split second. This is what causes most boiler accidents and causes the greatest risk to life. When that expansion takes place, boilers explode, shrapnel is sent flying, high temperature water and steam are sent out, causing catastrophic levels of burning, and sometimes the boilers can even go airborne. This happened a few years ago at the Lloyd Lane Box Company, where a boiler weighing 3,000 pounds exploded. It had 11 seconds of hang time. It landed a few blocks away, where it killed 2 new employees and the HR representative they were meeting with on their first day of work. In total, 5 people died in this accident. Just 6 months ago in Strasburg, Virginia, a boiler explosion resulted in an ammonia leak that took 7 hours to get under control by the fire department. Luckily, nobody was near the boiler when this happened. In this instance, the boiler shot out of the back of the building and flew into the shopping center behind it. It left a hole in a consignment shop, while just 5 feet from the water main and 10 feet from the electrical feed. That store was closed for a month while the store was repaired. 14 hours after the explosion, the fire department turned over control of the site to a hazmat crew to deal with the leak. As you can see, this could have been even worse had it not happened at 4 o'clock in the morning, or if the explosion sent the boiler just a few feet in either other direction. Despite this bill passing the Senate 40-0, we do expect some slight opposition. You may hear there are companies that can certify boiler operators in lieu of a DPOR license. One they will reference is NAPE. Well, as the CEO and past national president of NAPE, I can assure you that we are in full support of this bill. You may also hear that we need to reduce the amount of regulations. As a citizen of Virginia, I agree with this approach when life safety is not involved. However, maybe we can start with martial artists, wax technicians, and professional wrestlers. You might hear that DLI completes annual boiler inspections. They do not. This is contracted out to insurance companies and third-party inspectors. I have the one-page form for boiler inspections right here. It's basically a form to make sure they send the bill to the right person.
Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Torian.
Mr. Chairman, is he telling us that he's in support of the legislation?
Yes.
We got it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, would you like me to?
If you could just wrap it up, yeah.
Okay. All I have to say is I believe that passing this bill, we can take a huge step towards protecting the citizens of Virginia. And in addition to the safety benefits, I also want to point out just a few economic benefits this as well. Studies show. All right, I'm done.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Bisma Ahmed with the Apartment and Office Building Association and the Virginia Apartment Management Association, we support the bill.
Okay, thank you. All right. We're a little punchy tonight. Is there any opposition to the bill? We've got opposition.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm Eric Olson. I'm the Executive Director of the Board for Contractors at the Department of Professional and Occupational Regulation, and the agency and the administration strongly oppose the bill. The first thing I want to clarify with you, there was no study done. The work group was made by I believe it was the speaker that asked for a work group. Now, the work group was tasked with coming up with a piece of legislation. The work group didn't really want the program. They said it wasn't necessary, and they were just told they could not. That was not a suitable report, so they came up with a piece of legislation. There has not been a study yet. The second point is that it does go contrary to the governor's executive directive number 1, that is for regulatory review. We have there's a couple other things that we want to look at. I mean, I can answer any questions that you have, and everybody wants to go home.
Okay.
So.
All right. All right, we have a question, Delegate Brewer.
Mr. Chair, could I defer to the Chair of Appropriations to see if he has study money to study something of this nature? He does not, so I would move to table the bill.
Okay. All right, there's a motion to table the bill and a second. All those members of the committee, please cast your vote on the electronic voting board. All right. That motion carries on a vote of 13-9. The bill is tabled. Thank you, Delegate Bell.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is Delegate Krizak going to do the other ones? You want me to present the charitable gaming bills?
All right, just a second. We've got several. There were 4 bills that were scheduled for what we would normally call a full hearing because they were revenue bills. They needed to get out of committee tonight, and I'd like to get maybe the hard stuff out of the way first. And we've handled one of those. That was your boiler bill. The next was Senator Reeves' Senate Bill 530, and was Delegate Krizak. Were you going to present that for Senator Reeves?
530. Let me see. That
Illegal gaming devices,
yeah.
manufacturing, civil penalty.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I can give it a shot here. This was not one of the bills. This was not a cognitive of mine, but I do know that this bill was incorporates Senator McDougal's bill, and it just adds more penalties and enforcement to going after illegal gaming devices and things like that. It's got a big fiscal. I don't know if it's in the budget, but I think it's a good. I mean, it came out of Senate, flew out of Senate. It looks like a good, strong way to enforce the law, but it's going to have to go up to appropriations. I think that it's really a fiscal decision.
Okay, we do not have a letter asking it to be sent to appropriations, although it does indicate it's a revenue bill. It has to get out of committee before Tuesday. So, Chair of Appropriations, want to weigh in on that?
Looks like it's got a big fist.
Okay, all right. Well, we're going to make an executive decision here for the Speaker.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
move to report and refer to appropriations.
All right. All right. There's a motion, a second. All members in the committee, please cast your vote on the electronic voting board. All right. That motion carries on a vote of 19-3. Okay. All right. Senator Eben.
Yeah, I've got 2 bills, and they'll be a lot quicker than the last one I presented to the subcommittee. The first one passed the House 99 is SB 393.
If we could handle 559, that's the I'm trying to handle these bills
sure.
that didn't have a companion, haven't had a hearing in the House.
This is a simple idea that occurred to me that I noticed that sometimes lobbyists will give us information like this one that says vote no in HB 1103 unsigned, or this one that says oppose HB 194 Runyon and SB 267 Bell that was unsigned. And it just suggests that registered lobbyists who are registered with the Secretary of the Commonwealth would actually sign their bill, sign their information that they give to legislators and their offices. There's just a minor $25 slap on the wrist penalty. The idea is not to fine anyone, just to get people to have some sunshine on what they say about legislation if they are a registered lobbyist.
Okay. Any questions from the committee?
Mr. Chair.
Delegate Bullock?
Yeah, not a question, but just a comment and support, and so in the same way that I think we take campaign finance disclosure very seriously, and we have stand by your ad laws, this is very serious or very, very similar to exactly what those go ahead and do. And so if you're going to go ahead and distribute something on behalf of a client or on behalf of an issue, it'd be really important to go know who was promoting that. Mr. Chair, and if I could make a motion.
Well, let's see if there's anybody in support or in opposition to the bill first. Anyone in support? Anyone in opposition?
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Steve Rossi with the Family Foundation. This doesn't affect us per se. We proudly and always put our logo and stuff on our handouts. But we do it as a matter of best practices. We want people to contact us when we're leaving information about a bill. If they have questions, they want to further discuss it with us, we want them to contact us. So we proudly do that. Just like informal polling of all of my colleagues, from other organizations, they do the same also because it's in their best interest. We think this is a solution desperately looking for a problem, as it creates more questions than answers. Like, who's going to investigate the unsigned, who left the unsigned document? You're going to get the Capitol Police? Don't they have a better use of their time? I mean, what's their time worth? And if a legislator or staff member receives one of these things but doesn't tell anyone, is he a conspirator in this? I don't know. So the patron said in Senate that this was a pet peeve, and it seems the General Assembly has more important issues at hand than an occasional unidentified handout. Something in this minor situation, in our opinion, doesn't rise to the level of establishing a law in the Code of Virginia. We just think y'all have better things to do. Something that's happens like maybe 2% of the time. And if you don't like something that's unsigned, just throw it away and don't consider the information in it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. All right. Delegate Knight.
I'll move to lay the bill on the table. May I respond briefly, sir?
I'm sorry. Last word to patron.
Yeah, this is not about a pet peeve. This is about information that we all rely on to do our jobs accurately on behalf of the people of Virginia. And this isn't something that doesn't happen. It does happen. And we craft laws, we rely on it, and what it does is it just allows us a chance to contact someone if there's misinformation about a bill or otherwise, or to contact them if we want to deal with them in a short 46 or 60-day session. The penalty's not what I'm after. I'm not asking for any investigations. I'm just asking for people who register with the Secretary of the Commonwealth to be told that they would sign their information and materials.
Okay, thank you. All right, Delegate Knight.
Move to lay the bill on the table.
All right. There's a motion, a second, to lay the bill on the table. It's not debatable. All members, please cast your vote. All right. That motion carries on a vote of 12-9.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I do have another bill that you passed unanimously on the floor today. Do you want to wait to take that up till later?
We can go ahead and do that now if it's.
This was SB 393. Delegate Davis, it's the right to delete personal information bill, and you all adopted, I believe it was on the House floor today. It's part of the larger privacy bill. And it allows a minimal amount of information to be retained when you say that you want to be on the delete list, so that if they do another sweep of information, that they would know enough not to release your information when they pick it up the second time.
Okay, so I know some folks have talked to me about this, and were we going to? So Davis's bill was conformed to yours, or?
Well, they would be identical if you adopt this version. Yes.
Okay, all right, okay. So nothing, we don't need to adopt any amendments or substitute yours. Okay, all right. Anyone wish to speak in favor of the bill?
Move to report.
All right, okay. Motion to report and a second. All those in favor? All members, please cast your vote on the electronic voting board. All right, that bill reports on a vote of 21-0.
Thank you,
Senator Evan. Okay. Yeah.
You're probably being gracious. Did you mean to call me? I'm Senator Favola. Well, just to clear the record, I do have Senate Bill 290, and it is identical to House Bill 471, which did not fare so well. But I thought maybe if I spoke again about it and pointed out some things that perhaps were missed the first time it was presented, you might have a different opinion. Is it your practice to let me present, or?
Well, typically, we don't hear additional testimony in full, but go ahead, just take just a minute or two.
Super quick.
Yeah.
The one
You
thing
sat here so patiently, I can't say no.
It was a very interesting meeting, very interesting meeting. I do want to note this does deal with efficient roofs, either solar ready or just energy efficient, both for state and local buildings, but and particularly for schools. And we want our schools that are, with their projects are planned starting January 1, 2023. So this does have a delayed enactment clause. It wouldn't affect projects until they start their planning phase on January 1, 2023. And there is a waiver. So for new school buildings, if in fact the school board goes to the county board and says, look, we don't think we can recoup our costs fast enough, please give us a waiver, then they would be exempt from this requirement. I do want to note, though, most studies show you can recoup your money, your upfront money, within 10 years because of an energy efficient building and roof, and the average age of our schools is 50 years of age. So we do expect, hopefully, there will be some new schools. We have to replace some of our older ones. We think this makes sense. And there were two themes of testimony. One was from the environmental groups, and they didn't stay tonight. And the other was from folks very interested in saving taxpayer dollars and thought that this was an efficiency, a wise move for taxpayer dollars.
Okay.
I said it all. Thank you.
All right. What's the will of the committee?
Second.
All right, there's a motion to report and a second.
I believe that's an appropriations bill.
All right, it needs to go to appropriations. Report and refer.
Mr. Chairman, substitute motion.
I think we've already started. You want to cast a vote, Delegate Wright?
Speakers, we're here waiting to support the bill.
I'm sorry, we don't normally take testimony in full on bills that have already been heard. So that bill fails to report on a vote of 12 to 9. Okay. Senator Mason.
Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 196, same bill as Delegate Fowler with a reporting requirement. His came our side. We laid the reporting requirement on it. His the same as mine. So mine has a reporting requirement for a spirits board, 20% excise tax set up like the wine board, and you got to report back to us to make sure you're marketing and being effective.
Okay. And understand Delegate Fowler had a similar bill. It went through the House 98-0.
Mr. Chair?
Correctamundo.
All right. Delegate Brewer.
Move to report.
All right. All right. All members wishing to vote on the matter, please do so on the electronic voting board.
Senator Mason's on a roll.
Delegate Wright, you want to vote on this matter? Delegate Wright. All right, that bill reports on a vote of 22-0. You have one more bill?
With alacrity, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir. Senate Bill 576. So this one is not trying to change your hearts and minds. Now, if you like gambling, if you don't like gambling, I get it. All right. There are three silos for this thing. Let's talk about the way you. And by the way, I'm not a big gambler. If I put $5 on something, $10 on something, it's amazing. There's a silo of the old days that the line came out on Tuesday and you filled out your card and you handed it in on Friday and you bet $50. Well, in this era, the line is dynamic and changes throughout the course of the week. A major player tweaks his knee on Wednesday, the line changes. So that is a constantly moving target, right? As far as just the technology of what you're betting on. Second, so I was as close to people at William & Mary as you could be. My wife worked in the athletics department. I knew coaches. I knew players. It is. I can't imagine how you approach players and suggest to them that it would be advantageous for them to do anything about this. In this era, Mr. Chairman and members, in the name, image, and likeness era, Monty's Bike Shop would just say, I'll give you $10,000 to come by every Tuesday night. And they are warned mightily from staying away from anything that requires gambling. But, Mr. Chairman, this is the most important part of the conversation. And this is why, if this doesn't happen this year, this will happen someday. And that is because you used to go to Freddy's Bar and Grill and place your bets. And you bet on everything. Well, in this day and age, now that you can do it from a site that you put real money in from an account, it is tracked back to a person, a website, and if you withdraw the money, you're taxed. That put Freddy's book almost out of business. Almost out of business with the exception of you still can't bet on Virginia sports. So people are still going to Freddy's and betting on the Virginia Tech game. And here is a critical point to this, Mr. Chairman and members, and I'll shut up. Is at Freddy's, you go in and give $100 on the Virginia game, you give $100 on the North Carolina game, you go home. You lose both. Now you're down $200. You call up and say, hey, man, I know I'm down $200, but how about putting $200 on Texas A&M tonight and let me square this thing up? That's credit, okay? You can't do that in a legalized site. You must transfer money, not from a credit card. You must transfer money from a real account, real money. And so there's no such thing as credit. You lose your $200, you're done until you put $200 more in. It's all above board. It's all traced. It's tracked. The reason you're hearing this, it has to go to appropriations. I don't give a lick about the extra revenue. I don't care. I just want that final vestige behind closed doors, below ground, to go above ground and be tracked and traced. And that's the bill, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your indulgence.
Delegate Murphy, you have a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just don't understand, what is proposition betting?
Oh, okay. Thank you, ma'am. It doesn't exist in it would never exist in Virginia sports. A prop bet is the quarterback's going to throw for over 200 yards. And you don't do that already in college sports. So, you know, the quarterback will throw for 240 yards, over 250, plus or minus 250 yards. The running back will gain plus or minus 80 yards. The kicker will kick 3 field goals. It goes beyond just your team winning by 6.5. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone in the audience wishes to speak in favor of the bill?
College in Virginia.
Anyone in the audience opposed to the bill? Any questions from the committee?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Torian.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I want to share with the patron that I need to be consistent with my actions on the Delegate
Van
Valkenburg's bill. That bill met not so good of a fate, and my vote is going to be against this.
Understood. I thought you liked the M squared better than V squared, but that's all. That's all right.
Right. Delegate Knight. And then Delegate Bulova.
Yeah, Senator, when we did this, when the casino bill came in, we had an agreement in there that we weren't going to bet on any Virginia sports. And I had that agreement with Delegate Sickles and some other. Now, you may not have been a party to that deal with the casino, but I'm going to be like Delegate Tory, and I'm going to have to be consistent too, because that's the agreement that were in the closed shop, and we tried to tell everyone else that we were not going to allow any betting on Virginia college sports.
Understood. Mr. Chairman and Chairman Knight, I expect once casinos get open, they're going to be knocking down your door suggesting and requesting a change. But I appreciate that, sir, and you're right. I wasn't a party.
I don't mind saying no.
I understand, sir. Thank you very much.
Delegate Bulova.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I know the patron and I have had a lot of spirited discussions, but I just wanted to kind of add my voice to Chairman Knight and Delegate Torian. And this was an important part, you know, having this exclusion for college students in terms of getting the bill passed only 2 years ago, less than 2 years ago. And so it's kind of a short period of time to be revisiting the issue. Just a couple other points. So just remember, I hope, you know, that these are 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. There are kids in college. You know, a lot of they're not even legal age to go ahead and drink or to go ahead and go to one of the casinos and bet, which is 21. Right. I'll also remind everybody that our colleges and universities 2 years ago unanimously came to us with a letter. I wish I could find that, you know, kind of laying out what their concerns were about this. But I think they were very passionate that it puts their students and their student body in an awkward position to have students betting on students. And I guess the last thing is, sometimes these are going to happen illegally. But this is looking out after our Virginia students, and this is making sure that we're not going ahead and putting our seal of approval on that kind of activity. So I'm unfortunately a no as well, Mr. Mason.
Okay. Delegate Brewer.
Mr. Chair, to the patron, with great respect for you, great respect for Delegate Torian and Chairman Knight, I would move that we gently lay this bill on the table.
All right. There's a motion laid on the table. Is there a second? All right. There's a motion and a second. All members of the committee, please cast your vote. The motion carries 18-4.
That was a close one. Thank you for your indulgence at 9:30 at night, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate
Thank you,
that.
Mr. Mason. Senator Mason. Okay. Is Senator Bell, did he?
Mr. Chairman, is it all right if I?
Yes. Well, let's say, all right. So let me just take a minute. I think we have left. Are you going to present all of his?
Only the gaming ones. Does he have anything else?
Well, he's got Senate Bill 394. They are all gaming. And Senate Bill 399 and Senate Bill 401.
Yep, those I can handle those.
All right. Okay. So I believe the only thing we have left are bills that members of the committee are going to handle. So yes, why don't you go and take up Senator bills?
Let's start with an easy one, if it's all right with the committee, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 399.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, this bill has the one that came out of this committee and came out of the House. Just has one little change in it that the VDAX requested that we do on line 13. Ours says whether permitted or qualified, and so that's just a
So if we can
technical
get council to report that amendment, do you all have that?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have the exact line number, but essentially the House bill that you all voted on and that passed the House 81-19 had a line amendment to add that language that Delegate Krizik just mentioned, permitted or. So instead of just a qualified organization, it's a permitted or qualified organization. So if we vote to conform SB 399 to HB 767 as it passed the House, it would add those two words in and they would be identical.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion. All right. There's a motion and a second to amend the bill. So all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. The bill's amended. Delegate Krizik.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's go to.
I'm
sorry.
You finished explaining the bill?
Oh, the rest.
Or do you want to say anything else? I guess
No, there's nothing else really to say. Move to report.
Okay. All right. There's a motion, second to report.
Ashley, report with amendments or substitute?
The substitute is amended, correct? Just substitute. Okay. All right. All members, please cast your vote on electronic voting board. Okay. That bill reports 19-3. All right. Delegate Krizik.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. SB 401 is the enforcement of illegal gaming laws, charitable gaming fund established. That one, if you remember, we sent that up to appropriations where we made it a much skinnier bill, and it's basically our bill just created an illegal gaming enforcement coordinator at the state police, and it got rid of all the other stuff that we had started with, which, having the problem gambling treatment, sport fund, money going to lottery, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just illegal game enforcement coordinator. So I would move that we conform this bill to my HB 766.
As reported out of appropriations.
Yes, as reported out of appropriations. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, did I hear a second? All right, there's a motion and a second. All members, please cast your vote on electronic voting board. The bill reports 22-0. Delegate Krizik.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. SB 394, it is similar to my House Bill 764, which this committee reported 15-6, and the House passed 73-27. We today on the floor.
I thought we'd already handled that one. Has it already been handled?
No, we haven't done this one yet.
Okay. All right. My bad.
This is a Texas Hold'em. So this today, the difference between the bill, my bill went through the Senate and came back, and they amended it, and they took out what we had agreed with a number of the stakeholders, which was to allow for operators to administer Texas Hold'em poker tournaments. That is not in this bill. There is, I know that I see former Delegate Albo, and I know he's excited about this because he's been working on it on a substitute. But what I'm going to tell him and what I would like to tell the committee is we will work on that during conference. This is going to have to go into conference by doing this by if we can conform my bill to this bill, we'll be sending it to conference and we'll go through all that because there's a few things that Senator Reeves and I need to look at, which we have not done so with this bill. So if you'd be all right with that, we'll chat tomorrow.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Delegate Brewer.
Does this bill have a letter to go to appropriations?
No, I don't. So if the House bill went to appropriations and made it through, then we do not need to send the Senate bill to appropriations.
Mr. Chair, I motion to move and report the bill.
All right.
As conformed.
As conformed?
As conformed.
You want to say anything, Delegate Albo?
Yes. Dave Albo, representing Virginia Charitable Bingo Association. You don't have to say delegate because I'm not elected.
Okay, all right. I keep forgetting.
Hey, Grand Poobah is fine.
Yeah.
This is the bill dealing with Texas Hold'em poker for charities. We've been working on trying to get it to a place where the charities and Delegate Krizik and Senator Bell like it. We got an agreement today, but we kind of want to do it in conference. And living up to his word, he struck the Senate amendments and is going to send it into conference. So I think everything's going to work out as the process goes.
All right. Thank you. All right. I believe we have a motion to report and seconded. All members in the committee, please cast your
Mr. Chairman, can we make sure that that's with the conformity, right? We got that. Okay. Thank you.
Right. We got a thumbs up from council. All right. That bill reports 16-6.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Those are all the Bell bills. There's a Reeves bill.
Are you want to do that one too?
Sure.
Yeah.
Reeves's bill is, I think is it 403?
403, yes.
Yep. Oh, that's he has two bills. That's what's confusing me. Sorry. So 403 is my 763, and this is the bill that was reported and referred to appropriations, and we passed it there 19-2, 16-2, and it passed the House 73-26. This is the one that defines electronic gaming and the social organization, social quarters, and a number of other little things it does. But what I think we do, Council, what did we discuss on this? I forgot what we were going to do. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman and Delegate Krizik, I believe you want to conform Senator Reeves's bill to Delegate Krizik's HB 763 as it left the House. And then, Delegate Krizik, you wanted to add some language on one line if you wanted to talk about that.
Right. This is working with Chairwoman Robinson we've been able to carve out and come up with language that works to carve out a exception so that 501c3 universities that are accredited can have one location as well, like in a alumni hall kind of situation where they can have some games there. And that was something we've been working on since the very beginning, and I promised that I would make that happen. We were able to do that. And so that will make the bills different, and that will also put them into conference and will allow us to make any final changes.
Right. And you have a commitment from Senator Reeves that he'll make sure the bills go into conference?
Yes.
Okay.
Indeed.
All right. So,
Mr. Chair?
I have two people.
We had the same question.
Okay. All right. Who wants to ask it? I'll let y'all fight it
So,
out.
Mr. Chairman, then is the appropriate way to handle this parliamentary question is do we conform the two bills and then add the amendment?
I think we're going to conform it as council described and make an amendment to it.
So, Mr. Chairman, I actually have a substitute prepared, so if you just want to move a brand new substitute.
All right.
With
But the
that.
substitute would be reflective of what you described.
Exactly.
Okay. Right. All right. So,
All right.
I get a motion to adopt the substitute?
Second.
All right, so there's a motion, a second to adopt substitute. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Substitutes before us.
Move
Motion.
report.
Second.
All right, there's a motion, report, and a second. All members, please cast your vote. Okay. Substitute reports and a vote of 16. Delegate Adams. Report 17 to 5. All right, does that conclude your report?
No,
I feel like you should be a subcommittee chair, Delegate Creasy.
I'm willing and able. The last one is, I believe is SB 402 on the docket.
No, that was sent to.
Oh, that's going to subcommittee.
Sub
Okay.
3. Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Delegate Chairman Knight, I think you were going to say a few words about Senator Lucas's bill.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 519 from Senator Lucas is exactly the same as the bill that I had that came through this committee that talked about casino beverage laws and people.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
move to report.
Second.
All right. There's a motion to report in a second.
Lingenfelter would have kept talking.
Right. All right. That bill reports. $18 to 4. Okay. All right. Senator McPike had Senate Bill 223, intercollegiate athletics, student athletics composition and representation of name and image. That bill the House bill was House Bill 507, patroned by Delegate Austin, which passed the House
Move to report.
99 to 0. Okay, there's a motion to report in a second. All those in favor, please cast your vote on the electronic voting board. All right, that motion carries 22 to 0. And I believe the last bill on the docket is Senate Bill 96, patroned by Senator Normant, which would ban the use of Virginia is for betters in Virginia.
Move to
Passed
report.
the House 40 to 0. There's a motion to report in a second. All those members wishing to vote on the matter, please do so on electronic voting board.
You know what's amazing is your full committee is still here.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
All right. Delegate Runyon, your vote has not registered. All right. That bill reports 22 to 0. Mr. Clerk, does that complete the agenda? Okay. All right. That completes the agenda. We are adjourned.